So let's get started here with some of the headlines on the show. And for those of you who were watching football last night, you missed a great baseball game. And for those of you who were watching baseball last night, you missed a great football game. That's just kind of the way that it worked last night. Regardless, we're going to start with baseball today because I think that we got one of the big postseason home runs that we've seen maybe in a decade. Pete Alonso with the game-winning home run for the New York Mets off all-star closer Devin Williams in the ninth inning, gave the Mets a 3-2 lead. They go on to win the game by a final of 4-2. It was certainly one of the more incredible scenes that we have seen in the postseason in a long time. Some people feel like it was the biggest home run maybe in 15 years in Major League Baseball. But needless to say, Alonzo knew right away when he hit it. He went opposite field, as you could see there. It just went over the fence. And Alonzo, the polar bear, with a pumpkin in hand, talked about the big win last night.
I mean, I was just looking for something out over the plate. And, I was just really wanted to just hit something hard through the big part of the field. And I'm really happy I capitalized. Really happy that I capitalized. I know Devo's got great stuff. I've seen him pitch a ton. We were teammates in the WBC, and he's a tough AB. So I'm just really happy I was able to capitalize on something out over the plate. It's just been such a great ride all year, and I'm just happy I could come through for my team right there. It's a really special moment.
NL East showdown coming this weekend in the division series between the New York Mets and Philadelphia Phillies. They'll begin that series in Philadelphia this weekend. All right, so if you had your eyes on the baseball game, you may have missed the football game, although the end was live when the baseball game ended. It was a wild one, back and forth between Tampa Bay and Atlanta. This game flew over the total. If you bet on that early, you had a good feeling you were going to hit it, and you did. An overtime touchdown from Kirk Cousins in the end is the difference, and Cousins threw a career-high over 500 yards passing in the matchup with Tampa Bay. So Atlanta now square back in the middle of thick of things after a disappointing start to the season. Falcons are feeling really good about themselves. And Raheem Morris, the head coach of course, Atlanta Falcons, also feeling like a lot of credit goes in the way of the coaching staff and the offensive game plan.
I think these guys go out there and they play well together. They play for each other. And I can't say enough about the coordinator. I can't say enough about the players. I can't say enough about the offensive staff. I can't say enough good things about our organization and what they do for us, our culture that we've built around here. And it didn't start with me. It's been going on for a long time, and I'm extremely excited to be a part of it. And this game is all about confidence. This game is going out there getting better and better every single week. And that's what he's been doing since he's been back. You know, he's coming off a significant injury, and I've watched him get better every single week. And we kind of talked about it, when he went from Pittsburgh to he went to all throughout the games, and every single week has been better. Whether it's been explosives, whether it's been execution, whether it's just a rhythm and routine with him and Zach and our offensive staff. I mean, it's just getting better and better. That's what happened today.
Every conversation in the offseason with Atlanta was surrounded with Michael Penix Jr. You don't hear his name anymore. Kirk Cousins is there to stay, without a doubt. All right, now let's get to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers side. They played well, too. Just came up short. Baker Mayfield with a nice game, but after the game said he's not interested in his numbers.
All I care about is wins. That's it. So got to find a way to finish that game out on offense. I'm thinking about the first half, missing that shot to Shep. Should have been a touchdown, ended up with 3 points. And I'm just replaying that one over in my head that maybe shouldn't have even been in an overtime situation. So have to make the plays when they're there. And then in the second half, just got to take care of the football and then got to finish on offense. Obviously every time we got the ball back in the fourth quarter, trying to hit the mindset and tell the guys, we need to finish with this, finish the right way, end with points, and put this game away. And then once they're driving fourth quarter, just realizing that we need to hit the reset button and get ready for overtime. Obviously not getting a chance to go out there just based on the rules, but not ideal for us.
Yeah, Tampa Bay picking up the pieces after a loss in Atlanta in overtime. Meanwhile, if Antonio Pierce wants to return to college from the NFL, may have a little bit of an issue. The head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders has been slapped with an 8-year show cause order because of violations that occurred when he was an assistant coach at Arizona State University, the NCAA announced on Thursday. Most of the violations were related to what the NCAA referred to as a scheme or orchestrated by Pierce to circumvent restrictions that were in place during the COVID-19 pandemic. He facilitated impermissible recruiting contact with 35 prospects, tryouts, football facility tours, and entertainment. If he decides to return to college, he would be suspended for his first football season and would have no contact with the program's coaches or players during that period. So Pierce probably sticking with the NFL, I would guess, for now. Meanwhile, lots of news in Major League Baseball as well yesterday. A new manager for the Cincinnati Reds, which we'll get to here in just a minute, but also the general manager of the Minnesota Twins is stepping down after 8 years with the organization. Thad Levine this morning says that he is pursuing interests in baseball and also outside of the organization. Derek Falvey is the president there. Thad is the GM, no longer in Minnesota. The Kansas City Chiefs are looking forward to their game coming up over the next week, but Rashee Rice will not be part of that equation. As of right now, he's undergoing further testing. Of course, he was injured in last week's game against the Chargers. He goes on injured reserve. Another key wide receiver in the NFL, that's Khalil Shakir of the Buffalo Bills, had an ankle injury on Sunday night. He didn't practice Wednesday. He didn't practice Thursday. He'll need to practice today, probably in order to play. Derek Carr, amidst rumors of a potential trade for Davante Adams, says that he would love to have Adams on his team. Of course, anybody would. And he says, quote, I think all 32 quarterbacks would like to play with Davante Adams. We know the Jets are heavily involved, but these are just rumors on this Friday as well. No trade imminent. Adams not expected to play anytime soon. Les Miles, former coach of LSU, is moving forward from this federal to state court case. He's got a lawsuit against the LSU and the NCAA over a decision to vacate 37 of his team's victories from 2012 to 2015. He initially sued in June in a court in Baton Rouge, alleging that LSU never gave him a chance to be heard before altering his career record. Basically, Miles wants to still be in the record books. As of right now, he is not. Wisconsin's leading rusher, Chez Mellusi, is stepping away from football as he continues to battle back from a multitude of injuries. He's entering his sixth college season, 232 yards and 3 touchdowns this year. Also in college football, we have some nice games tonight. Some teams ranked in the top 10 playing. Number 6, Oregon, 23.5 home favorites against Michigan State. The wacky schedule right now in the Big Ten continues. Michigan State traveling cross country, Oregon State. Also Syracuse travels, yes, across the country to number 25 UNLV. Rebels are 6.5-point favorites. Total is 58.5 in that game. All right, back to baseball we go. All division series now officially set with the Mets taking care of business in Milwaukee yesterday. Here is the schedule. Tigers play the Guardians first up Saturday at 1. Mets at Phillies at 4. Royals and Yankees at 6:30. Padres and Dodgers at 8:30 Eastern. That is the Saturday schedule. Meanwhile, 1 year ago, Terry Francona retired as manager in Major League Baseball from the Cleveland Guardians, and he's back yet again. As MLB.com reported last night, Francona is back and managing the team that he used to play for, the Cincinnati Reds. As soon as press conferences coming imminently, he didn't see this coming. I don't even know if Cincinnati interviewed anybody else, but needless to say, they were not going to make that announcement during the game. It happened immediately after the Mets-Brewers game ended last night. Diamondbacks also making some changes to their staff. Former World Series champion pitching coach with the Houston Astros, Brent Strom, has been let go. Also assistant Dan Carlson and Mike Fetters also not there as well. And the Dodgers have announced their game 1 starter. It is going to be Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He will make the start coming up this weekend against the Padres. Welcome back to Newswire here on SportsGrid. We've got Jim Ghazali in the house from LegalSportsReport.com. All of the topics we discuss on this show can also be discovered, read, analyzed over at LegalSportsReport.com as well. Jim, great to have you back here on Newswire. I hope you have a fun weekend ahead, but thanks for spending some time with me first.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, Craig.
All right, so let's get started here. The state of Massachusetts coming down here a little bit on BetMGM facing some non-compliance issues. Why don't you tell us more about what the story is and how they'll be affected?
Yeah, so BetMGM came under the microscope in Massachusetts in recent weeks for allowing a ton, 15,000, in fact, 15,000 unapproved bets on college football player props. And, Craig, as you know, over the last several months, really, the college football betting, college sports betting in general, especially the player prop side of it, has come under a bunch of scrutiny. Several states have outlawed it. Not allowed in Massachusetts, but BetMGM was accepting bets on college football player props, 15,000 of them, like I said, for upwards of $200,000 in bets. And obviously, the Massachusetts Gaming Commission didn't like that all that much. in addition to that, there were some bets that BetMGM took in Massachusetts on soccer matches, prop bets around the number of penalty cards that would be issued in a match. And if that sounded familiar, that's because it happened to BetMGM in Tennessee a handful of months ago, and they got hit with a pretty sizable fine in Tennessee for doing the same thing. So a lot of this went undetected at first on the part of BetMGM. So they ended up hiring an outside company to come in and audit some of their practices, some of their policies, and they uncovered a handful of other non-compliance issues. Now, the Massachusetts Gaming Commission did say at a meeting in the last couple of weeks that they'll be reviewing this matter even further. They'll bring it up at a future meeting. And as you know too, Craig, the MGC is probably one of, if not the most publicly out there, if you will, when it comes to a lot of their regulations, and all of their meetings are streamed online live publicly. So the public, constituents, reporters like myself can get eyes and ears on everything that they're discussing. So this BetMGM non-compliance issue will come up at a meeting in the not too distant future, I'm sure.
Yeah, and again, got to be extremely careful with some of these college props going on across the country. I think that there's a lot of focus on that moving forward. All right, now let's get to the state of Colorado. And, certainly right now, the primary goal is to get as much attention for Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. I kind of have a feeling, Jim, that maybe some of the numbers that are hiked up here a little bit in sports betting in Colorado, maybe thanks to him as well, because I know it ain't the Broncos. It definitely ain't the Rockies, and the Nuggets don't start here for about a month.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And what we saw in August was a pretty sizable increase in college football betting. And ultimately, it does have a lot to do with Coach Prime. The Colorado Buffaloes played their first regular season game that final weekend in August, so that played a role, obviously. And the Colorado State Rams also played their first regular season game that final weekend in August, so that certainly played a role as well. And just a lot of the national hype around Coach Prime at the University of Colorado, certainly driving a lot of bets, especially inside the state. So $14 million just about bet on college football in August, which was noticeably more than August from last year when $6 million was bet on college football. A lot of that season-long future bets from last year coming in on the Colorado Buffaloes, thanks in large part because of the attention that Deion Sanders was bringing to that football program. They didn't play a game in August last year, but they did this year, and I think that is why we saw such a sizable increase to that college football handle. Like you said off the top there too, Craig, the Rockies haven't really been doing much, I don't think, to influence baseball betting in Colorado. Baseball betting was down in August by a couple of $1 million. I think it was about $103 million for the month, which was down from $105 million August of last year, which was even down further from August 2 years ago. So baseball betting in the thick of summer seems to be on a little bit of a downward trend in Colorado. Now, on the basketball side, like you mentioned too, we have seen over the years that basketball, once it's all said and done and we get a 12-month snapshot, basketball betting tends to be the most popular sport for Colorado. I obviously think that has a lot to do with the success of the Nuggets in recent years. But when we do get a full 12-year picture, which includes the NBA season and ultimately the playoffs, usually, as we've seen the last couple of years, basketball betting is certainly tops on the list, even ahead of NFL betting when it's all said and done in Colorado, Craig.
Yeah, and again, if Colorado played great last week against Central Florida, maybe that will continue. Maybe more betting comes in. All right, let's close it out, Jim, for the week here and hit on Bet365. limited, great success around the world, limited success, I would say, fair to say, with their footprint here in the United States. But in the state of Ohio, it does seem as though they've done a really good job, at least making some hay there.
Yeah, certainly that footprint is growing, like we've seen, and I think Ohio is a perfect example of that. They've cemented themselves as the number 3 option in Ohio, really in about the last 10, 11, 12 months even. They're really holding on to that third overall spot in Ohio behind FanDuel and DraftKings. We've seen them start to grow their revenue share in New Jersey as well. Looking at some Kentucky figures that came in just yesterday from August, they're the 3rd most popular sports betting app in Kentucky. So we're seeing Bet365 start to really grow that footprint in these various markets around the country. Now, of course, they're not available in New York at the moment. Like I said, they are available in New Jersey and starting to grow that footprint there. But really, I think what we've seen over the last half of the year to a full year is really that Ohio market is really they're really digging their heels in there and showing some really positive signs of success. And in my opinion, I think it's one of the more interesting stories that we've seen really from the start of 2024, carrying now through into the fall. And those summer months really had them really cementing themselves as that 3rd option behind the DraftKings and FanDuel. So it'll be interesting to see, again, as they get another football season under their belt here in the next couple of months, to see how they perform, if they can really distance themselves from the other operators in the state and really lock in that 3rd overall spot. But over the last couple of months, we've really seen Bet365 do a really solid job of gaining market share, both on the handle side and the revenue side, especially in Ohio, Craig.
Yeah, great stuff as always, Jim. Thanks for bringing it to the table. We'll catch up again next week. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Craig. You too.